As I've gone around the last while traveling the province, we launched our campaign in early June, and we've had amazing feedback so far as to the issues that we're standing for, the issues that we're bringing forward, and people are really excited about what this new United Conservative Party can become. I'm a restructuring partner at a law firm here in Alberta, and over the last couple of years, we've seen the economic devastation up front. Companies that we would normally be able to turn around, simply that there's just been a loss of investor confidence. So normally a company would be able to save jobs and turn it around. It's simply been a matter of turning over the keys, the equipment gets auctioned off, and people lose their jobs. And seeing that front and center for the last few years, it's just not good enough. And it hits me on a personal level. My family in the early 80s, loss of investor confidence in the early 80s, national energy program, and just some real issues that are reflective of similar stuff that we're facing here today in Alberta. My parents lost their business, we lost our home, and I'm seeing too many people that I know that have been unemployed now for 12, 18 months, some of them going on 2 years, and they're looking at other places. They're wondering if Alberta is going to be their future. And I remember when I decided to come back to Alberta in 2006 and make it my home, the reason why I came here and came back to Alberta was there was no question in my mind. This was the place in Canada where you could come and get ahead. And it was just, there was an entrepreneurial spirit, there was a confidence in this province. And I think by doing a few things right, we can turn this around and we can have a bright future in Alberta. Well, there's a couple different facets to our plan. And the first one is offering the largest tax relief in Alberta history. We're going to make sure that we give people personal income tax relief. So we're going to make sure that people making under $100,000, there'll be income tax will be 9%. People over 10%, those people over 100,000 will be taxed at 10%, which is some of the largest personal income tax relief in Alberta history. In addition to that, we're going to bring the corporate tax rates down almost 20% for corporate taxes, and we're going to cut the small business tax in half. In addition to that, we're going to eliminate the NDP carbon tax and keep the focus on major emitters and innovation on that front there. So by doing that, we're going to reestablish ourselves as the most competitive jurisdiction when it comes to taxes in Canada. Now, on top of that, by having a flat budget for 4 years, so same budget in year 1, 2, 3, and 4, we're going to be able to balance the books by the end of our first term. We made sure that we did this in a thoughtful way. We consulted with experts and economists on that to make sure that we could do that in our first term. So that is a big part of our priority, is getting our fiscal house in order and making sure we are the most competitive jurisdiction, bar none. In addition to that, there's some reports out by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business where Alberta got an F, dead last in the country when it came to red tape and redundancies that just hold people back and hold businesses back from hiring somebody else and growing their companies. So one of our big focuses as well there is for every new regulation on business, we're going to repeal two regulations on business. And we're going to work with industry stakeholders to make sure that Alberta is back in business and that people know when they come here, we're going to be efficient. It's not a matter of having loose rules. It's a matter of being efficient with them.
Scrapping the NDP carbon tax as it stands is one thing, but what about when the federal one comes in? Obviously Ottawa has announced plans to introduce national regulations. How do you handle that?
Well, right now, I think that Justin Trudeau and the federal Liberals have overreached. And I think that the Saskatchewan and Brad Wall have the right approach in making sure that they challenge that. And depending on how that court case comes out, we'd be supportive of that court challenge. Hopefully, they respect provincial jurisdiction, and it's in our wheelhouse in order to set that parameter.
Social issues. You're placing a big priority on this in your campaign. Yep. Why?
Well, in the next election campaign, millennials will make up the largest voting bloc in Alberta. It'll be the first time that they make up the largest voting bloc in Alberta history. And for millennials, if you get the social issues wrong, they won't even listen to you on the economy. And that is one thing, I'm 38 years old. My wife and I have 2 little girls. They're 4 and 6. And I want to make sure that Alberta is prosperous for them as when they become young women as possible. And we've got a lot of challenges in our province. Certain studies have come out. We're saying Alberta is just behind. We have one of the largest, if not the largest, income gap in the country when it comes between men and women. And there's things that the government can do to help address some of that, and we've outlined some of that in our campaign so far. And sometimes it's just a matter of coming at things from they're not right and left issues. It's just a matter of doing what's right. And a perfect example of that, and we were talking about this earlier on, is I've been on the board of the Calgary Drug Treatment Court for over 5 years. And it's coming up with innovative ways to deal with issues and challenges we have as a province. Now, Calgary drug treatment courts as a whole, we want to expand this to every corner of the province to make sure we set up a center here in Red Deer, Grand Prairie, Fort McMurray, Lethbridge, all of our mid-sized centers in Alberta. because we have a drug crisis in Alberta right now, these harder drugs that are coming on, like carfentanil and others, they're killing people. And we have to come up with innovative ways that are collaborative between health, justice, and just it's the right thing to do. It reduces the recidivism, basically the people that will commit crimes again, by over 70%. And also, in addition to that, for people that want to be fiscally responsible, for every dollar you invest in these types of programs, the studies have shown that it saves you $3 because it saves you on ambulance trips, it saves you on thefts and things along those lines. So it's a matter of coming up with smart policies that just work for Alberta.
So in general, obviously, you're fully behind this United Conservative Party movement. Confident that by the end of Saturday, this thing will have passed and you'll be moving forward?
Well, you can't take anything for granted in politics. As long as we continue to row in the same direction, all the different people that have kicked tires and shown some interest in leadership, as long as we're all continue to work together, I'm confident that on July 22nd it'll happen. I think the votes are there. And just even walking around here today in Red Deer, talking to people at the parade, talking to people at some of the breakfasts, they're excited about what the new United Conservative Party can become.
What would your message, I guess, be to those who are either undecided on, or that count themselves as conservatives and are either undecided about whether they're going to vote for the UCP or are so far opposed to it? Because it's funny, on our radio stations, we've got Rose Constituency Association running an ad saying, "Don't vote in favor of this. It's not a grassroots thing." What would your message be to conservatives that I guess haven't decided whether they're going to vote in favor of unification or not?
I mean, on that front, it's a one-member, one-vote system. It's democracy at its finest. Obviously membership sales have cut off, but everybody across the whole province had their chance to buy the membership, and now they get to vote on it. And hopefully they vote for the ratification of these parties. And the reason why I think it's needed, when I go out and door knock, when I go out and talk to people across this province, they want the NDP gone in 2019, but they want a really strong alternative, not just for power, but they actually want it to stand for something. And that's one of the reasons why in our campaign, and if you go to DougSchweitzer.com, you can see some of the policies that we've outlined. And we really think that there needs to be a positive vision, and this is the best vehicle to do it.
Obviously, you've got two high-profile guys that say they're running for this thing, with Brian Jean and Jason Kenney, the guys that have orchestrated this merger. What, I guess, part A, makes you better suited than them for this, and B, what's it going to take for a guy like you to win a potential leadership race going against two high-profile guys like that?
Well, I mean, right now, I think it's in its early stages in the campaign, but when I go out and talk to people, they want to make sure you have a plan and that you articulate a clear direction for the future of this province. And people are really excited about what we've outlined, the largest tax relief in Alberta history. And when it comes to, contrasting with the, other candidates, we'll deal with that later on in the campaign. And I'm sure there'll be the occasional contrast that we'll do. But at this stage, we're all trying to work hard towards the unification.